Committee, start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome. This meeting is being televised by Chelmsford Telemedia. If there's anyone present who is recording or planning to record this meeting, would you please indicate so at this time? No? All right.
Bomb was thrown.
All right. I already have several parts of the consent agenda. First, we have the regular meeting minutes from June 23rd. Does anyone have any corrections or concerns?
Yes. On page 3 of 6, under Mill Road, second paragraph,
Yes?
I don't recall that I said we're going to purchase the building. We're either going to use the building or rent the building. So if we were to occupy that building, so we're not purchasing it. So we should say make the building ADA accessible if they occupied it, if
Okay.
that's okay?
Okay, that's
Because we were never asked
Sure.
to buy the property. So that's the only correction that I have.
Any other corrections or concerns? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 23rd.
Make a motion
As amended.
as amended.
Motion's been made. Second.
Second?
Mrs. Thorne, second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that takes care of that. The next item is the Finance/Budget Subcommittee meeting of May 26th.
Because it's a subcommittee meeting minutes, maybe we should just have a motion to accept the minutes as presented to be put in the notebook that have minutes, because not everybody was there, so we're just
Right.
going to make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Okay. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Motion's been made to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lapoli. All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Unanimous. Okay, we also have executive session minutes from May 28th. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of May 28th.
Make a motion.
Second?
Second?
Motion's made and seconded to approve the executive session minutes for May 28th. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions, unanimous. And finally, executive session minutes from June 23rd, June 3rd, 2015. Any questions or concerns? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion.
Mr. Lapoli moves the question. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the executive session minutes from June 23rd. All in favor, aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Unanimous. Okay. Now is the time for the school committee to hear public input. The school committee welcomes public comments, but this is not a time for questions or debate, and personal attacks will not be tolerated. Or is anyone who would like to address the committee at this time? Would you please give your name and your address when you get settled?
Nice cast, by the way, Sharon.
Thank you. Does this work?
I hope so.
Hello. My name is Sharon Giglio. I've been the librarian at McCarthy Middle School for the past 18 years. I live in Nashua, New Hampshire. I'm here tonight to speak about the lack of a certified professional school librarian at the CHS Learning Commons. As most of you know, the high school has been without professional library staff since the end of last September, when Valerie Diggs was terminated During school committee meetings this past year, many students, staff, and parents spoke requesting that Valerie be reinstated. That did not happen. For the remainder of the school year, students and staff were without the support of a certified library staff to guide them through numerous research projects, assure that they knew how to discern reliable sources of information from the unreliable ones, assure that they did not plagiarize, and made sure that they followed copyright laws by correctly citing all the sources used for their research and using information responsibly and ethically. Our students and staff should not have to go through another school year where they are denied this professional support and guidance. I have been eagerly awaiting the announcement that a certified high school librarian had been hired. Imagine my dismay upon learning that the position was filled by outgoing Principal Caleri in June and was not given to a librarian at all, but to a technology integration specialist, John O'Sullivan. It makes no sense to me that the determination of who would fill the librarian position was not left to be made by Steve Murray, the new principal at CHS. As a school librarian, I have always had deep respect for our technology integration specialists and have collaborated successfully with the TIS at McCarthy, my school, for the past 18 years. We work as a team to provide our students with the best skills needed for the 21st century life in which they are living. Certainly, our high school students and staff need the expertise of both a technology instructional specialist and a certified school librarian. Please appropriately fill the librarian position, reinstated last spring, with a certified school librarian. Please do the right thing.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board?
My name is Regina Jackson, Essex Place, Chelmsford. I'm a taxpayer and parent in Chelmsford, and I'm very, very upset and disappointed with how the school committee has handled our taxpayer money. I closely follow school committee, finance committee, board of selectmen, and tri-board meetings, and it is very discouraging that the school committee continues to show such little respect for the Chelmsford taxpayers. You reward mismanagement with our money. No one is ever held accountable for anything. There's no consequences, especially if they're your friends. Mr. Tiano and his team mismanaged over $1 million of our Chelmsford taxpayer money. I asked Mr. Tiano at a public meeting exactly who is on this team. And he said himself, business manager Kathy McWilliams, Assistant Superintendent Linda Hirsch, and IT Director Anne-Marie Fiore. Well, you gave Mr. Tiano $140,000, which is to me like a golden parachute of our money. And to me, it's why. I believe he should have been fired in September 2014 when everything came out and was revealed, along with his team. $140,000 is a ton of money to most people in Chelmsford. It's not chump change. It's the equivalent to 2.5, 3 teachers. Kathy McWilliams was paid to stay home and was giving a $25,000 payoff to go away, never explain anything to anybody, especially the Chelmsford taxpayers. We never got an explanation. Then she landed a job with a vendor who she had direct dealings with from Chelmsford. Those are huge ethical red flags. We have never heard any type of public explanation or accounting from the assistant superintendent or the IT director, 2 key members of the team that Mr. Tiano, Frank Tiano, said repeatedly everything was a team decision. The decision to dismiss the 3 Chelmsford High School administrators was a team decision. We're told over and over. Why weren't they held accountable? They're still on the payroll. Chelmsford taxpayers, parents, students, community members have never been given a full, detailed explanation of the $1 million mismanagement, and I really don't understand why. You manage the $52 million school department budget with an air of arrogance and disrespect for the Chelmsford taxpayers. That's how it comes across. We never get a full explanation. And I urge you to please stop giving our money away and have more respect for the Chelmsford taxpayers. It's not school department money. It's all our money. It's town money. It's the Chelmsford taxpayers' money. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes, please come up.
Hi, Michelle Caputo Starkweather, and I'm at 19 Dunshire Drive here in Chelmsford. And I'd love to say that I moved to Chelmsford 3 years ago, and I am so grateful that we are in the Chelmsford School District. We came from Dracut. That's all I really need to say on that subject. Been super, super happy with everything that the school has done for us. I will mention that I nearly had a stroke on July 1st when I received a summer school notice for my older daughter, who is in special education, on June 30th. And then I tried to call and get help. And I suddenly found out that the special ed director was gone. The team chairperson for the high school was gone. I already knew that the principal was gone as of the 1st. And coincidentally, the dean happened to be on vacation for 2 weeks. I had no help whatsoever. I didn't know what to do. I just signed her up, and I'm crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. I really needed some guidance at that moment, and I know that there was quite a bit of, for lack of a better word, consternation when when emails started flying back and forth with the pack, and people went, "That one's gone too. That one's gone too. That one's gone too." Not that we need to be informed of every single little teeny thing that happens in the schools, but especially for SPED parents where we really, really need a little extra assistance some days. Somewhere in there I could have used a little note that said, "Oh, by the way, our director's leaving, we'll be getting a new one. The team chairperson is leaving, we'll be getting a new one. In the meantime, talk to this person." I talked to the nicest lady in the SPED department. She was the administrative assistant. She really couldn't help me with guidance. And I just truly didn't know what to do. And that was surprising to me. I also went into my PTSD moment when I went, "Oh my God, another SPED director leaving." And that was how I left Dracut. So, because the SPED director came back. But I just really wanted to let you know that for this one, you guys kind of needed, I don't know it was you specifically, but someone needed to be giving us a little bit of a heads up, a little bit of information, just so that we had, and really would have been helpful if someone had been appointed to handle the high school SPED issues that come up, because a lot of the SPED kids have stuff that still continues being dealt with over the summer, and there was nobody there. Now, my child normally wouldn't have, just happened to. And then when I was talking to one of the other mothers, she went, "Oh yeah, and my guidance counselor is gone too." So it wasn't my guidance counselor that was gone, but it was just a whole lot of, "Oh my God, what do I do? I'll hope it'll be okay." So that was really it. I just was hoping that next time, hopefully we won't have quite so much change all at the same moment, but a little bit of guidance and a little bit of heads up would be really, really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? All right. Thank you very much to all of you that did speak. Before I forget, because the issue came up about the high school library and so forth, I just personally like to express concern that we weren't included in the discussion of this. Some of the information, I got a call today from someone that's been before this organization before, and the superintendent told me that he's gotten a call, and the announcement of the appointment was essentially informal discussion through the community. I personally didn't know that appointment had been made. I have concern about, it's now a question about who made it, because we had been told, or I had heard one thing and I heard another thing tonight. So I would, Mr. Superintendent, I would appreciate it if, when we get together again, if we could get some more information on this appointment, because it is a significant one. We're told a lot of things where we have not been taking action, but we've been dealing with the library situation for months. And if there was going to be a move made on it, yes.
I just, to clarify the answers that we would appreciate, who made this appointment? Was the position posted? Were the job requirements listed? Did we post for a certified librarian? What qualifications does the candidate who was selected have for that position? Those,
Mr. Lapoli?
Emphasize, as I'm hearing this, is this job require certification? And if it does, why was somebody appointed to this without certification? Number one. Also, to reemphasize what Barbara just mentioned, what was the process? What should be the process? I don't understand the time frame, Mr. Superintendent, sir, in regards to, it sounds like this job was given out when our chairman doesn't know who the appointment was made to. I think that's a serious problem, especially when we specifically said to everyone, no new hires until the new superintendent comes on board. Now, that was talked about at this meeting by our chairman, and I just don't understand why that was done. So what was this, some kind of a job that was given like in the last week of June that nobody had input on? I have a real problem with that, sir, so we'd like to have some answers with that, sir.
And there are a couple of other things, too, that relate to the previous questions and comments, and one was if the person does not have certification, was there an emergency waiver sought, and if so, was it granted? And has the person enrolled in any preparation program in anticipation of seeking certification? All of those kinds of things.
Yeah, for your help, I will get on this tomorrow morning. I did receive a call this afternoon. I was down at the superintendent's conference at the Cape today, but as I was driving home, Steve Murray, the principal of the high school, called to just alert me to the situation and give me some of the background information. And I will speak with HR tomorrow to kind of find out some of those specifics for you. I don't have them all this evening. But certainly, I would hope that when a job is posted, there is a job description. There are, basic requirements that have to be met with related to a degree, what type of licensure is acceptable for the position, certain, number of years of experience. There are certain things that are required, and there are certain things that are preferred. But I will take a look at that. We'll talk to the HR office and find out exactly how the whole process developed, who did the screening, who was part of the interviewing committee, and how that decision actually came to be. I will get on that in the morning for you.
And just one more thing, with the deans involved, I can see Steve maybe not being on board just yet, but
Right.
the deans are also in the schools representing us, and were they involved in this? I would think they should be. They're a major part of the
Right.
entire organization. I would think they would be notified or asked their opinion or be
Right.
part of that process.
one of the concerns we had as a committee when the position was eliminated back in September was the impact it would have on our NEASC standing, because it was specific that there had to be a certified librarian in that building. Now, no disrespect to the person who's been allegedly named, but Mrs. Tata, who worked as a technology specialist for years and years in I'm not sure she would feel qualified to be a librarian.
No, I don't have those qualifications.
You've been a technology specialist for how long in our system?
19 years.
19 years. So I have concerns about this.
One other factor also is that we have a grievance that relates to this whole situation, which is proceeding and we'll be dealing with in October. So, not to have information up to date, particularly with all of that background, I think is really irresponsible.
I agree, Mr. Chairman.
Can I just add one other thing?
Yeah.
One of the things in having a new individual come on, that you may see that there is a more efficient way of doing things or a different way of doing things than they had been done in the past, not just in the area of hiring. And so if there's some different system that you find that will be more efficient or more in line maybe with site-based management, and that then, we'd like to hear about that and see if there's a different way in which we would be hiring people than maybe the way that we've hired them in the past.
Okay. Yeah, I'll review this tomorrow, and I'll produce a full report for you. I'll send it to you in anticipation of the next meeting. You'll get it ahead of time, but we can put this on as an item for discussion at the next meeting as well.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone that had good news that they wanted to bring up tonight? It's our usual good news person isn't here. But
I heard the parade was awesome. I heard that Dr. Lang knows more people in this town than he does in Lowell.
yes.
Toss-up. It's a toss-up. From my perspective, the parade was very nice. I hadn't been in years since I took my kids when they were younger, but it was amazing just when you look through the folks sitting by the sidelines. You know how many actually Lowell people were here as well as Chelmsford people that I've known through the years. But it went very well. A nice, great community event. Great to see everyone come out and just really support the community. I was privileged to and happy to have been asked to march with you. Hopefully that'll be something we do every year together. It was a lot of fun. I'd like to say I would try to run the road race, but I don't want to hurt myself, so I think I'll stick
don't
to
wanna hurt
walking
you
in the
either.
parade for a while.
Not only that, once you get to the center, you got to get back.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I'll walk one way, but I think twice is a bit much. The only thing, if I can, Mr. Chair, offer up, Linda, who was at the conference this week, also did email me just to mention how excited the folks were with the Chelmsford High School, the marching band, and the orchestra that went to Washington, D.C. around the 4th and participated in their parade. She indicates that the marching band members represented Massachusetts in the National Independence Day Parade. And orchestra members performed at the World War II Memorial and played at the Veterans Retirement Community in Alexandria, Virginia. Students from both groups participated in the laying of a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Arlington National Ceremony. I know the family and the students made us proud, and that was really a great day for the high school band and orchestra. So I just want to pass that along as some good news. Thank you.
All right, moving on to new business. First item in this area is the appointment of a new Director of Student Services.
Thank you, Chairman. Thomas, very excited about this. I prepared a memo for the committee. One of the things that really struck me as I was starting in the transition work here in the district, one of the major kind of holes to fill is the Director of Student Sports Services position, in essence, the Special Ed Director for the district. A lot of folks had approached me, and Mr. Tiano did invite me in to screen and have an interview with one of the candidates. We took a look at the whole pool of people, and it's really important that we find someone that, both experience-wise and knowledge-wise, is going to complement the new team coming into the district. And as I started to reach out to folks in the schools and the community that I knew, I said, what would you like to see in a candidate? What are the required traits of the candidate that we really need to attract to the position? And inevitably, the name of Carol Fredette, the longtime retired SPED director, came up, and they said, I can't tell you how many times people said, you've got to find a Carol Fredette. And even when I reached out to my contacts in Lowell to try to help recruit some potential candidates for the position, the Lowell folks knew of Carol as well, and they said, you really need to find someone with her experience and credentials, and that's the kind of candidate you need. To make a very long story short, various folks did reach out to Carol for us. I had a very nice coffee with her and a conversation with her about the needs of the district, and Carol would be interested in coming back and helping us at this point on an interim basis, filling the role of Director of Student Services, help us through the summer and the fall, to actually help us initiate a new search for a permanent replacement. She has made it quite clear she doesn't want to be the permanent replacement, but I think it would lend some incredible stability to the district, and I think the special ed folks for the start of the school year. She is certainly someone that I could work very well with. She's so highly regarded. I think she would just do a wonderful job and just fill so many holes coming in at this point. So I did prepare a memo for you with my recommendation to have the committee. As you know, this is one of the 3 positions in the district that requires the school committee's approval. but I would seek your approval in appointing Carol Fredette as the interim director of student services until a permanent replacement is named at some point later in the school year.
Mr. Pauling?
I just want to commend the superintendent and you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a great example of us not reacting quickly, taking our time, taking a step back. And Mr. Superintendent, you filling this with a well-known, very successful person in our school system with Carol Fredette, I think that speaks volume of the chair and that speaks volume of the superintendent to say, hey, slow down. We're not going to make a quick decision. We're going to take a step back, bring in an interim person, run it for a little while, and she is going to help us find the right person. So I just want to commend the chair, and I certainly want to commend the superintendent. That was the right move for our district and our kids.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So,
Want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll, would like to make a motion that the Chelmsford School Committee approve the recommendation by Dr. Lang to appoint Carol Fredette as the interim director of student services to be effective immediately in compliance with the requirements of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71B, Section 3A.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I would just add to the superintendent's comments. I was fortunate enough to work with Carol for an extended period of time, and she represents the district very well in dealing with students, parents, and the people that, the huge bureaucracy that comes with SPED. She knows how it all works, and she has a good relationship with all parts of it, so I'm very confident in this appointment. Yes.
Just one more question in reference to Michelle Caputo. Will that go up on the site? Will we let people know that there's a new director of services, basically giving us the heads up and better guidance?
Right.
In the
One of the
future?
things that I'm used to doing, and that I will bring to Chelmsford, is anytime there is an appointment at the district level, or even we encourage this at the school level. But the little bio that I wrote up on, Carol, for your presentation, this would be shared on, say, a district website, or if it was a school-based appointment on a school website. I think it's important that these announcements are really shared with the larger community. And it also gives you a way to kind of tout really some of the experiences and the different criteria that these individuals are bringing to the district. So no, after the approval, because this did require your approval tonight, and I appreciate your support, a slightly smaller version of this would be posted to the district website. And what I plan on doing is kind of a weekly, kind of an FYI or an announcement to the district staff. So these kind of announcements would be in that weekly bulletin. And then the committee members, and then it would also be posted to the website.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor of this appointment, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Unanimous. Okay, the next item of business is announcement of recent contract bids and awards.
Thank you. You have in front of you a memo and a packet prepared, actually started to be prepared by Frank Antonelli, the business consultant, who worked with you over the course of this past year, and then Michelle Crestor, our new director of finance, who's here with us tonight, pulled it together, and it is a kind of a compilation summary of some recent bids that had gone out. The first was for the frozen prepared meals. And then as part of a consortium, the district participated in a bid on various grocery items, dairy products, bread, paper and vending supplies in conjunction with the food services operation. Again, kind of coming in new to this, I'm not 100% sure what the committee is used to seeing or receiving for information. But I think Michelle and I, and certainly Frank, feel it's important now and going forward that if we do significant bids or award contracts in the district, and these are contracts that you're going to need to approve, but these are vendors' names that you're going to need to be familiar with, because you're going to see folks on warrants and things of that nature, that you really have all the background information that goes in, so you can see what goes into the actual recommendation of the award. So it's our recommendation this evening Oh, as I indicated, the frozen meal one went out by Chelmsford Public Schools, but we actually participated in a consortium of other districts with the other grocery items and vending machine supplies. So that is something that oftentimes some smaller districts will get together and pool their resources to go out in a bid to try to get the best pricing available, just based on scalability. But we this evening have prepared this information, and then in the future we'll be presenting this as a regular action of the committee. So we would recommend your approval to award these contracts, and Michelle certainly could speak more directly to individual questions you may have on them.
So you want a motion to have the Chelmsford School Committee award a one-year contract to Preferred Meals Systems Incorporated?
Correct, with two one-year option extensions.
Yes, with a second and a third-year option extension. Do you want these as two separate items, or together?
I would do them as two separate, because the frozen prepared meals was a separate bid initiated by us, and then the second one could be we can group them together,
Right,
because
it
it's part
should
of the
be
tech
listed.
bid.
Mhm.
You wouldn't have to vote all five of the
Right.
subawards, but I would take two actions, two votes.
Okay, so we have just the one motion for Preferred Meals.
Correct.
So we're all set on the motion, right?
Unless you want me to put the money in
No,
it.
that's fine. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the bid for frozen meals from Preferred Food. There was just one bid, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Does anyone remember the other company that was,
Aramark's name came up, but I don't think they put a bid
didn't
in.
that Pratt?
Preferred Meals was,
There was another one. Back when you guys sampled.
I don't remember.
There was somebody
Yeah,
else.
but that was
Yeah.
that was a while
Yeah.
ago.
They may not. There is somebody else.
Aramark provides
there is
food in
somebody
Lowell.
else in the state that does a lot of that food, and I don't know if it's a geographical thing or why we only got the one bid.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
when we went through the discussions, I'm sorry, about food at the elementary last year, which was pretty extensive, there were two companies.
yes.
I remember, I didn't remember the name of the other one, and it doesn't really matter, I guess, but what we've learned in our investigation is that they both provide essentially the same meals. So, for the people who might be watching, if we just got one bid, if we got two bids, it wouldn't have been terribly different, I don't think.
Not different on the food, or maybe the product as far as we know, but there might have been a difference in terms of the money. If we did get more than one bid ever on the food, I would recommend that we actually taste whatever it is that they're providing, so that we have some indication as to a comparison. Because when we first tried Preferred Meals, it was very different than what it currently is. That's why
In
we
which
went with
way?
it. Well, it was, I thought it was better when we first tasted it
Yeah,
in terms of what they offered, but now they've modified it and added quite a bit to it.
okay.
I had the experience of tasting them not in a confined setting, but at a school. And, once was enough.
Mr. Lapoli?
Michelle, in the future, being from a little bit of that background, if it helps, maybe we could reach out to some of those companies and invite them. Sometimes maybe they're not aware of the bid or some of the other outfits out there, or maybe we could group some of these other smaller companies that can do a job equal to one of the bigger companies if we group them together. So I know this, to Evelyn's point, that if there's going to be a showing to you, they're going to put their best hat on, they're going to put the best food forward, and that's always not the case when the food starts to get shipped, whether it's to Chelmsford or any other school district. I'm sure our superintendent can talk about that to some extent in his experience, but maybe we could also do a better job in reaching out to other vendors and saying, hey, maybe you'd like to take a shot at our bid, or maybe talk to them a little bit more, as opposed to funneling it down to one person, because we're backed into a corner right now. We only have one opportunity. Am I right?
We can certainly send out the bid to any interested parties or anyone that we know of. In this particular case, we did have two companies that were interested, two companies that showed up for a walkthrough of our facilities, and only one responded.
does it have to be, Mr. Superintendent, all or nothing? In other words, can we piece and parcel this out? You know, maybe one vendor that might not be able to handle the entire school system, whereas several vendors, maybe we can improve the quality or hire locally. You know, I like that idea. And locally could be the immediate area.
Right. I think the luxury you have at this point is the way this contract is structured. So you're basically awarding a one-year contract.
Right.
And you have the optional year 2 and 3 if we decide to exercise it at our discretion at some point in the spring. But this will really kind of give myself and Michelle a year to take a look at the current operation of the food service program here in Chelmsford. If as a group we decide we want to stay with the frozen prepared meals, there really are only 2 companies that do that for a school or even like a kind of a hospital setting. There are just 2 known, and preferred is 1. If you wanted to kind of venture out from that and take a look at the whole food service operation again, possibly doing, some frozen prepared meals, some prepared on site, you have to just take a look at the cost, and we can do some analysis on that. But then you're opening yourself up to a wider group. There's probably 5 or 6 primary companies if you're going to do it, and kind of outsource even. In Lowell, what we ended up doing was we outsourced the management of the operation, but we kept the actual production in-house. And as a district, again, there's various models, but we actually employ the staff to be district employees, and we're basically contracting for the management team to come in. There are other districts that do just contract out the whole thing. Some operate totally inclusive, but it will really give us a year to kind of take a look at the current setup that you have, where you really can't change because we're just so far down the track at this point to go from a frozen meal to doing it on site for September. It's just not viable. I think you're better off where you have the one bid executing the contract with preferred for next year, and then kind of having us assess over the course of the fall and probably come back to you with the recommendation right after the first of the year if we were going to make any modifications for the subsequent school year.
I don't disagree with you, Mr. Superintendent, and I would like us to look as this continues on the quality of the food. All I can tell you is from experience. I can remember years ago when my daughter used to buy the lunch at the school system. We no longer do that. Every single day my wife makes the lunch for my son and my graduating daughter. So sometimes only the best is a bargain. You'll hear me say that over and over again. What good is having the best price if our kids aren't eating the food? And when we all know, everyone in this room, that nutrition is probably one of the most important parts of the learning process for a child. So let's take a look at that. I'm sure if we go to, I'm not looking to raise anyone's taxes, but I'm sure if we go to town meeting, we start talking about nutrition and what's best for the foods for our kids to eat, I'm sure you'll have a receptive town meeting people that will be agreeable to let's only buy the best for our kids and not what's the best price.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
I agree.
One of the things that we'll also need to do, one of the things that's held us back in moving toward more on-site production is lack of acceptable kitchens.
Right.
And there've been some capital items, but I think last year most of the money went into refrigeration, if I recall correctly. So, because the leadership has changed and we no longer have April, we'll probably need to have a report after things get going on the status of our kitchens.
Do we currently have a director of food services?
That was my question.
Yes, we do.
You do.
Her name is Danielle Collins. She's an experienced food service director from New Hampshire, and she has joined the team. She's been in sporadically so far this summer. I met with her this week, and I'm in touch with her at this point.
She was the one that's a grad, right? I think she's a grad.
Yes, she is.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just one other question. I appreciate the detail on this. How does it compare to last year or prior years, the pricing?
That is a good question.
I only ask good
I
questions,
believe
Michelle.
it actually came in. It's good to know. I believe it came in at the same price, to be
Okay,
honest.
Okay,
I did review that information. I didn't bring it with me.
that's okay.
Last question, Mr. Superintendent. I apologize for going over this. Nutrition is a big deal with me, as is to everyone in this room, but only because I've been in the business for so many years. is there an opportunity, as you continue to go down this road, if you see an added value, can you bring other vendors in to add to what we have, create options for the kids? I'm throwing it out there, other salad bars and other things that the kids might be excited about. Are we allowed to do that? Would you look at that, sir?
Yeah, I mean, just because we're going to award this contract tonight doesn't mean that we can't do anything different over the course of the year. I mean, this is basically, if we're going to buy the frozen prepared meals, then this is the venue that we need to purchase them from. I haven't seen the specific contract or even the template that Chelmsford uses, but I will review it before it gets issued. But I don't think there'd be anything stopping you from, say, adding to it, adding a salad bar or some kind of fresh, prepared on-site options. Even the DOE has various grant programs. We're participating in like a farm to school type initiative right now. Some different enhancements to breakfast where I am, and so none of this would be excluding that. The door is still open to look at that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Michelle.
We also have vendors when we go down to the conference too, so we can always be on
Yeah.
the lookout to see what's there in
Right.
the
What I find, and not to belabor this, but what I find is really helpful is like when we even want to kind of see what other districts are doing, like Mr. Lapoli said, when vendors come, they're going to bring you their very best, right? They're on their A game that day because it's a dog and pony show. They really want to buy your stuff. But what we'll do, because we generally we have that management contract and we do it in 3-year increments, we'll ask for a list of, say, 6 or 8 districts that vendor is currently working in. We'll clear it with the school department, not necessarily the vendor, and just say, I'd like to send a team to take a look at your operation. Give me some dates that are acceptable. And the vendor isn't going to know what day that we're actually kind of come into the district and kind of check out their operation. And we're going to go check out an elementary school in one district. We might go check out a middle school in another district. And you're going to get a sense of exactly what that vendor is delivering on any given day. And again, then you can kind of have that dialogue. Maybe they had a bad day, but you're at least going to, kind of get them kind of talking, and you're going to be out there seeing how they're going to actually interact with you in a real school setting, as opposed to just, say, coming into central office to set up a buffet for folks. So, over the course of the year, that's certainly something I do have a good deal of experience with that we can look into.
Thank you, sir.
Any further comments on the prepared meals? All right, then we'll vote. All in favor of accepting the proposal for the frozen prepared meals, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Abstentions, unanimous. Now, we need a motion. We can do all of the other items in one motion according to the superintendent. Somebody would like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that the Chelmsford School Committee award the bids for the 2015-2016 school year as listed under grocery items, dairy products, bread products, paper supplies, and vending items that were collaboratively purchased through the TEC Collaborative.
Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Poli. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Unanimous.
Just as a point of explanation for those who are here, this is the TEC. That's why we're not reading everything. There's many pages, and it talks about paper towels and condiments and those important things. So you can thank us later.
As a kind of a point of information for myself and Michelle, we're always open to guidance around exactly what the committee would like to receive. Too little information, too much information. Please just kind of communicate to us what, the order and the fashion you want to receive reports in, so that we can kind of comply with your wishes.
The next item under new business relates to some work that Mr. Lapoli and Ms. Scar have been working on with regard to athletic funding. So if you folks would like to fill us in on what you've been doing.
Well, it came came together, I should say, with frustration. We both
have been talking about the fundraising that goes on mostly at the high school level. How we have teams and clubs competing against one another to raise funds. Where does that money go? Who's responsible for collecting the funds? So Mr. Lapoli and I met and just kind of hammered out some rough language, and then Sal wrote up the issues that we want to address and maybe some ways of, tackling those issues. But we both agree that there's not a lot of continuity. And when you have, a debate team competing against a football team, the playing field obviously is not level. So we want to make sure that the fundraising is done in an equitable way, and that our students aren't out there just pounding sand, that when they're selling those Lions cards, they're not just getting 40% on the dollar. They're getting as much money out of that situation as possible. And Mr. Lapoli had some very good points about those Lion cards. Maybe we do them ourselves. If we can figure out a way to do that, that might be a better way to go, get 100% or minus the cost of printing. Seems a little better for everyone.
Absolutely, Barbara. This is a very fragmented part of our process at the high school. And I think there's an opportunity, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Superintendent, to maybe create some kind of a small subcommittee to do a little bit of questioning or gather the data that we need to report back to you, or whatever the right process is. I know this. I know we could probably create some kind of a relationship and also bring in a program that brings in the collecting of money or fundraising or the renting of fields. That seems to be in the same arena to me, unless there's a little bit of opinion on that. So I just think we can do a better job. I think it's very fragmented, to Barbara's point. And we do have some recommendations, but Mr. Chairman would like to maybe create some kind of a subcommittee and get back to you with what are the real issues and report to you maybe some possible recommendations or a roadmap. And as you, Jay, I am also new to this, and I want to follow the right protocol, certainly with our new superintendent. This is a problem that's been going on for quite a while, so we're just trying to find a solution or support you in finding the right solution.
What sort of size did you have in mind? Did you thought about who would be included, or?
For a subcommittee? Well, with all due respect, I think Barbara, who's been passionate about this for a number of years, and certainly I have a lot of expertise and experience in it. I'd be happy to be part of Barbara's team. I would assume that Barbara wants to be on this team, and I think, with all due respect, 2 people. If it's more, we can certainly converse with you or the rest of the board on what we find before we make any reports. But I'd be happy to say, less might be a little better, move like a speedboat, and under Barbara's guidance, I'm sure we can report back to you.
I don't know about that, but we will report back. We'd have to have discussions with the athletic director.
Sure.
We'd like to, talk to Michelle about how do things look to you. Talk to who's ever in charge. Coaches. Rob Russo, I think, has been handling the collection of the funds over the years. Let's talk about how that's done. And Sal has written up some great things. Those Lions cards, kids just go in and take handfuls and leave. Where's the accountability? I'd rather them take 10 each, and be accountable rather than 20 and come back with 5. You don't know where that, it needs to be more controlled.
I think there are controls in place. Having said that, I think we can do a better job. To Barbara's point, I think the controls that exist need to be tweaked, or we at least need to understand what the process is. So I think we'd like to talk to, coaches, we'd like to talk to the athletic director, we'd like to talk to the people collecting the money, who's dispersing the money, where did the money go, where were the checks, how do you have accountability, who is the companies, because this is not just one company, sir, that's selling you a fundraising product. Today there could be a half a dozen different programs out there to selling, with all due respect, cookie dough, all the way to mugs, all the way to Lions cards, cards at different price structures. it just, I think we can do a better job. I think we can support the athletic director better. I don't know when he became the representative of fundraising within a community. His job is big enough. So I think if we kind of combine certain things, put them in the same arena, for example, those turf fields, I think we can do a better job. So we'd just like to get back to you with some of those findings and then collectively make a recommendation.
Just a point of clarification, because of the way we advertise it on the agenda is that it's athletic funding. Is that what we're going to
It's all, you're right, sir. It is all funding, because I don't think it's fair that, our arts department goes out there and they're trying to do fundraising, and if they're late to the game, well, then all these sports have gobbled up all those people, because how many times have you said this? Oh, I already bought a card. Well, if you bought a card from a particular sports team, well, then that leaves the arts, science and arts out. And what we'd like to do is just level the field so everybody is fundraising, and there's an opportunity for everybody to have an opportunity to raise as much money as they can, not just the sports team, but also the arts and entertainment.
Well, I think that the work that Frank Antonelli did, you know the dollar figures now, and probably the next thing will be to find out where the dollars came from.
Mm-hmm.
A calendar would be a huge improvement, even if nothing else changed, because the teams don't, and the other organizations, they don't even know that they're fighting against each other until they get out there. It's a huge undertaking, and I'm really excited that you're willing to look into it.
I know all of us have heard feedback from a parent or two whose student has played on a team, and over the course of years, we've raised $12,000. Where's our money? Where are our new uniforms? We were promised this or that, and they've never materialized. Where did the money go? So, those are valid questions, and I'd like to be able to find the answers, or at least have a clearer idea from now on where that money is going.
Unfortunately, this has turned into another tax on the taxpayer, because I'm sure most, if not some of the people in this room, inherently say this: another sport, we got to fundraise, you know what, I'll just buy them all. Don't go out and do the fundraising program. So what does that mean? That means a family that's paying for busing, a family that's paying for sports, a family that now is paying to pick up all their fundraising program. I just think we can do a better job and better answers to our taxpayers, or to the moms and dads of our community.
Okay. Did either of you have anything you'd like to comment about? Or
No, but
add?
I think it's a good idea to have a subcommittee to find out more information. I think
Right.
we've found out quite a bit of information since Frank Antonelli has come on board. There's been a lot of clarification. He answered an awful lot of questions that we did have, and set Mr. Russo up to be able to, deal with the activity account, so at least we know numbers. You do have a checkbook, and there's a lot of checks in there, so when you say, where does money go, you have at least that much, and if he has been doing it, all these years. But again, I think there needs to be considerable checks and balances. The other thing that could also happen is that since we have a fairly, you have a ceiling or cap on how many businesses there are in town, if the businesses know, here's a list of all of the potential teams or clubs that may be coming to ask you for some kind of a donation, at least they have a clue. I had a friend that had a business, and every so often somebody would show up, and she only had so much money for advertising. So it was limited. So at least it could also be given to the business association as to maybe what the schools would be asking. And also, if there was something like that, it could go in their newsletter. Chelmsford Public Schools have the following things. If you are interested in donating, please be aware that they may be knocking on your door. So there is another way in which to at least make aware in the community what is going to happen, not only in terms of the equity amongst the different clubs and teams that we have.
Also, the opportunity for businesses that are trying to increase their sales. Geez, might be nice if not the same people are on these cards all the time. Maybe it's an opportunity for other local small businesses to offer their services, potentially at a discount, but advertise within our community. Because if you look at those cards, they're the same people all the time. Why? Because the big outfits out there that are doing these cards, they go to the same people and they just place the same ad. I can say that because I'm on the card. So it's just a reoccurring expense on our part, but there might be other small entrepreneurs out there that say, hey, I'd like a shot at the card, but I can't crack into it because it's being run beyond my control, or I don't even know who to speak to. So you're right, Evelyn.
Right. it's another facet, it's another area in which we can have better communication.
I like the idea of going to the small business and the business association.
Have a boutique card.
Yeah, absolutely,
Small
absolutely.
business.
And you are the liaison, so you can.
That's why I'm on the committee, subcommittee.
Another
you, sir.
thing to keep in mind is the work that DECA has done for the Alumni Association and other groups. It's nice because it benefits them and they have time, which a lot of other people don't have.
Right.
Just keep them in mind.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just have one question. I think this sounds like a great idea. And I understand that since we're technically in charge of the accounts, this is an appropriate place for some school committee oversight. And certainly to understand the system that's in place now and to think about how it can be improved is a good idea. But you mentioned the athletic fields a couple of times. They're not part of a fundraising effort, right?
Yes,
For a
sir.
team. Not for a team, but for a
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So, you have a bond that you have to pay every year, sir, okay? I think our bond is going to go down. The highest it was this year, which we reached that goal in spite of the weather that we had. We started late and went right past that goal, which is a great thing. I think there's a few more years left, but the bond is now decreasing. But the problem is, School Committee Rigney, is that in raising, there you go. There you go. The problem is this,
You're responding now to questions that nobody heard, but that's a
Yeah,
go ahead.
exactly.
They'll pick it up.
You might want to start over again.
They'll pick it up as we go along.
So here's one of our problems. You have an athletic director that now is in charge of raising thousands of dollars to rent these fields to pay a bond, in addition to managing what his job was, because prior to him hiring our athletic director, we had no fields. This just became an added job to him. So
It's two full-time jobs.
exactly, sir, exactly. And all I look at it is this: is there a recommendation that Barbara and I could make to you by presenting the right data that says, hey, listen, this might be a job that we could have a person that crosses over to both things. He's raising money on fields. For example, look at the money that was raised from NRT.
Yeah.
You know, we were able to secure that. We also have some other opportunities of fundraising or naming rights or opportunities to raise money for the as a result of the turf field. So it seems to me that there could be some synergy between the two. It's certainly something that I think is a hardship on our athletic director to expect him to raise all this money. And by the way, track every dollar that's coming in from thousands and thousands of cards that are sold. I just think
I don't disagree with that at all, and I think you make a good point about we don't want to overload anybody. If it's a full-time job, we ought to recognize it as such and give the support that's needed to do it well. But I am a little concerned that in addition to paying the bond, I think there's an expectation that we're going to put some money away to replace the surface of the field as well.
absolutely.
I think there's a discussion that can be had there. I think there's two ideas. One is that you put enough money away so that you buy the field outright when it ages out. Now, in order to do that, we've got to get our fundraising up to about, I'm going to say, the $220,000 to $250,000 a year range if we're going to have enough money in the bank to buy a field outright at the end of the expected lifetime, say 15 years on the current field. That's one approach. There's another approach, which I think says you fund the field on an ongoing basis. Even if you have no money available to purchase a new field at the end of the 15 years, as long as you've paid off the bond, there shouldn't be any problem writing another bond and buying the replacement turf that way. But I think that's something that hasn't been fully discussed within the town yet. I think that may be a little bit of a distraction if you talk about the fundraising to support the teams. I think both are worthwhile things to do, and the question of how the how the fields are managed is an important one. I mean, one reason we gave that job to the athletic director was because we want to make sure that our kids have first crack at the field. And so whoever is in charge of that needs to be familiar with the team schedules, with their needs, as well as being familiar with outside groups who might come in and pay to use the fields. It's a complicated question. I think it's worth having a subcommittee to look at it. You may wish to submit more than one report, though. It might be faster to get your arms around what you can do for fundraising immediately, and take a little bit more time to talk about the turf fields and both the administration and the funding of that.
And one of
See
the,
them as two separate items.
Right,
Very
one of-
two separate items.
one of the discussions we had, you view our major arenas, including the PAC, McCarthy Auditorium, and the turf fields. Would that not be just booking those properties a full-time job? Marketing and booking those properties?
You might include the ice rink.
And the rink, if we're still
In a couple-
associated with them after, the change in ownership.
Where's our hockey team going to play if they
Well-
don't play there?
Right. But, that is a position that we may have to consider filling.
So you're looking at two separate entities.
Yes.
One is all the teams and clubs and whatever.
Correct.
Okay. Then come over and take a look.
Fundraising and scheduling.
Well, no, I'm looking at fundraising in terms of teams, because that's what I thought this discussion
Yes.
was about. Now we're going over to turf fields, which to me is different, along with when you include the PAC and the McCarthy Auditorium and the hockey rink and so forth. The PAC and McCarthy are operated by, 11 or 13 different policies. So if somebody is going to be booking and somebody's going to be taking care of it, they have to know all those details. There are some, but not as detailed with regard to the turf fields. I understand when you say why we have the athletic director in charge of the turf fields and make sure, in terms of scheduling, that we have our own students there, but we had to make sure that happened with regard to the PAC. And we had somebody that was not in charge of the theater guild or involved at all that we hired, but somebody that did know exactly what they were doing with regard to that. Before we did any of that in terms of rental of our property, whether it was grounds or inside buildings, that was done by community education. And then we separated it out after that to have a specific person here do that as part of their job. So you may want to take a look to see how it was done, to see if there's any tweaking that can be done if you're looking at our grounds, not the teams and clubs, to see if there's anything there that would work or anybody that would work before you think of having a separate individual starting to do all of the organization and fundraising.
Would you allow us to collect the data, come back to you as a board, and start talking about some of the things that we revealed? And
Yes, I think that's what we agreed
certainly we can all get an education, because I have to tell you the truth. What you just said, I was unaware of the systems and processes in place for the PAC to generate money or to rent out the PAC. To Barbara's point, I think that's a brilliant and an excellent idea to come back to the ice rink you're at. Let us gather the data, come back and be educated as a board, and then make recommendations from there.
Right, because it's also been a while since we had Bernie Battle, who is doing the rental of the PAC, and McCarthy to come and give us a report. We haven't had that for a while. Usually at that time, we ask if there's any recommendations for policy change. I know everybody just loves it when I mention that, but that's what governs it, and it's detailed for a reason, less room for interpretation. So there's a lot of information out there that if you start to go off into the turf fields and the PAC and the McCarthy and the hockey rink, I think that's a lot of work to do. I would like to see first you get a handle on the teams, then
Fundraising.
yes, the fundraising piece with the clubs and the teams and stuff, and try to coordinate that and have some kind of a program that may work, and then put your efforts forward, because it's a lot of work to do what you're suggesting to do all at one time.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I'd encourage you
We'll
to
focus on the
look at the
fundraising for now,
fundraising first.
But I would like to explore. the
Absolutely.
logistics
Well, I
of
think-
someone who books those properties.
Right, because I'd like to do
Well,
a
I think
little.
the fundraising may give you some other angles to consider, but I think that's going to have to be a much more involved and long-term discussion. I mean, we're talking about personnel now, and there may be overlap with the town. It could spiral pretty quickly.
We were just trying to solve every problem.
Quickly.
Yeah.
I just think the point is this, the only reason we mentioned it, Committee Rigney, is only because there's a little bit of a crossover. We wanted to tell you we're thinking about it. Let us collect the data. We'll come back and say, by the way, just to let you know, these are the things taking place on that. We don't have to solve that right now. We'll focus on fundraising, get back to you with real data for any recommendations, Mr. Chairman. And then, well, at least you're inherently going to understand a little bit more about the fundraising that takes place in the PAC and some of the other opportunities that we have outside of sports.
I think that would be a discussion well worth having.
Right, because realize that the people that are in charge of those have been here to tell us what it is they're doing. And if we're trying to coordinate it all, it's a little bit different than the way that we've done it, but I'm not saying we don't do it. I'm just saying that I would like to hear a little bit more from the people that are running it.
Well, that's on
the list.
Barbara and I, we both spoke about it. That's on our list to speak to those coaches or those individual people that represent, to get real data back to you guys. Because there might be opportunities, because you can only put your finger in the dikes in so many places. Maybe there's opportunities that we're missing that at least we can come back to you and say, hey, listen, this is what's happening right now, whether we realize it or not. Does that sound good, Mr. Chairman?
Very good.
Thank you.
I think you'll find out the complexity of the task you've undertaken in a hurry. Some of the stuff is very, based on my experience, which is fairly extensive in that area. A lot of it's easy because the teams do the same thing and it's
Right.
well organized. And other organizations, they don't know what they're doing until a week it takes place, and
Right.
it's going to be frustrating. But I think that this will really help all of those groups to get their act together. So it's exciting.
Barbara, would you recommend, or Chairman Thomas, would you think it would be okay, Dr. Lang, if you sent out a memo or just contacted the coaches and the athletic department and let them know, hey, listen, there's going to be a couple members of the school committee that's going to be calling. Please, we'll work with their schedule. We know how busy they are. If they could just get back to us or understand why we're calling. And this is a job that we've all agreed upon with the representatives. Just a heads up.
Sure.
To Michelle's point.
Okay, thanks again for the initial work that you've done on this. So, all right, next item under new business, proposed 2015-16 school committee meeting calendar. Because we took a week off and fouled up the schedule, we decided that we should take a look at the whole situation and raising the question about when we need to meet and when we don't need to meet. And so the superintendent has done a memorandum for us, and perhaps you'd like to comment on it.
Yeah, one of the things that threw me off, quite honestly, and as the new guy, I get to say that for about a month, and then I can't say it anymore.
I've used it for 2 years now.
Well, but when I was looking at the calendar, I thought you were on a first and third Tuesday of the month schedule, but it appeared you were on like just every other Tuesday. So whenever you got those weeks with the 5 Tuesdays, it was throwing me all off planning wise, because I was trying to kind of map out the fall to see when we might want to bring different presentations in and whatnot. And then we had last week's canceled. This one got scheduled, then we technically have another one on the schedule for next week. So when I was looking at it, I've always just found it easier because the schedule does move week to week during the course of the year. And I just wasn't trying to overstep my bounds, but just wanted to propose the committee consider just thinking and kind of locking into a first and third Tuesday of the month schedule, so that I can, and I just kind of listed the dates for August through December. If it worked, we could continue it into 2016. But for the time being, it would just allow us to always know the first and third Tuesdays of the month will be the regular school committee meeting dates. I could kind of start to map out the calendar for the fall as far as different reports and presentations and whatnot. And we wouldn't have to worry about the 2 months, I think, where we're going to have the 5 Tuesdays, which throw us off cycle, because then we end up switching to the second and fourth those months instead of the first and third. So it's just me kind of throwing it out there for discussion. Obviously I'm open to whatever you like. I did indicate that I am actually away next Tuesday, and I wouldn't have any agenda items for next Tuesday's meeting. So regardless of what gets happened or decided on this, I would recommend you cancel next Tuesday's meeting because I don't see, unless you had a particular need for it, the need to do that. But I didn't know how you felt about trying just a first and third Tuesday of the month for the fall and see how it goes.
Sounds fine to me.
I think that's an excellent idea. As far as August, were you suggesting that for August too, sir?
Well, I listed the August dates.
They were the same.
What's that?
Your first and third in August was the same as what we had on the original calendar.
Well, it just happened that way.
Well, I'm just saying.
Right, right. I think it was when you got to, I think it was September throughout because of 3 Tuesdays. Again, just what I'm used to is, we typically do the first and third Wednesday in Lowell, but then during the summer, because the activity level is so much lower, we always skip the first Wednesday of each month. So we only meet the third Wednesday in July and the third Wednesday in August. And typically we can get our stuff done during those meetings. I mean, personally, I think we could get away with one meeting in August. It'd be preferable to me to have it be the later meeting, the 18th, just because then it would almost be like an opening of school type meeting. But I didn't want to be too presumptuous and start canceling
You won't be here for August 18th.
your meetings.
You are just such trouble.
Do you know how many meetings?
far away is
I've
she going?
missed?
That was on the calendar
Put you on the
already.
phone in the middle of
I
the
know.
table.
I know.
Okay.
I couldn't get around
I
it.
think that's a great idea.
I agree.
Whatever you want to do.
I agree.
mean, I like the first and third only because then it's easier for PTOs to know when we're meeting from one month to the next instead of the second and the fourth. You know how it goes 1 and 3? It's because I ran into that difficulty with having 2 PTO meetings on the same night. And hopefully I won't have 3 on the same night. So,
Well, if we can advertise this early enough too, I think schools, as they start to plan their schedules, will know. Just don't do anything on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. And even if, like, say, my availability, I'd like to get out to those meetings as well, I could tell them to try to stay away from those. And again, when you have the strange months where you get the 5 Tuesdays, it throws your schedule off if you do the every other week thing. So if everyone likes, we could do the first and third Tuesday of the month. I think we could take a motion to cancel next Tuesday's meeting on the 21st. There really seems to be agreement around that. And then, again, I don't want to interject myself in a fight here, but I don't foresee a need for a meeting on August 4th. I'll actually, probably be starting, full-time that week, so it will give me a day to even prepare. So I think you could do away with the August 4th meeting, and then I'm sorry, Evelyn,
That's
have
okay.
the August 18th meeting be the August meeting.
We'll put you on a speakerphone.
I don't miss many meetings.
Okay. I know.
I drove down for this one.
So is that Mr. Chairman, is that a vote? Are we taking a vote on this? It's just
Well, that would make it clean, yeah. Then we can publicize what we're going to do right away.
You can take a vote on what the proposed dates are, but you want to eliminate Tuesday. So
We need a motion to cancel the July 21st meeting.
that's at your discretion. That's at your discretion and the chair's discretion. You can cancel it at any point. Although that was on our original one. So we can make a motion to, right? Because it was
It's
on our
always,
original
it's
list.
always an advisory
Yeah.
schedule, right?
If you want,
It's
if
the
you wanted more
chair's call.
motions, it's usually at the chair's prerogative is when we're dealing with this. At least it has been. If you want to begin to make motions for meetings, that's fine.
Well, this is all new to me. I don't want to be the one.
I'm
be the
just
one doing
notified.
this.
I'm happy with the first and third concept. It sounds like everybody else is as well. If there's some concern about the August 4th meeting, you could let it go for a week and see what you think. Or you could just say you intend
cancel
not to
next
call a
week.
meeting.
You don't need our motion.
now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened. That's what I did with the
Yeah.
last one,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, we didn't make motions when we were canceling and picking up on meetings. But what I would do is make a motion that the current calendar for school committee meetings be adjusted to what was proposed this evening without listing all of these. so that we would accept the calendar, the new calendar for the school committee meetings up to December as proposed by the superintendent.
Is that the first and third?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it's the list, because the
So-
dates will go up online.
Beginning
So,
on August
we're
18th.
going to do the first and third. To Evelyn's point, we're going to follow this schedule. However, we're going to cancel the next meeting, and also, I agree with Mr. Superintendent to cancel the August 4th meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to.
That'll probably hit about right for the tri-board timing, too.
Right.
We're going to need to get together around that time, too. All right, is that a motion?
Yes.
Motion's been made to approve the first and third Tuesdays for meeting from August 18th to December 15th. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions, unanimous. Okay. The next item on the agenda, we need to take a vote to approve the appointment of Superintendent Lang to the Valley Collaborative Board of Directors. And after we do that, then I sign off on it, and he's official. Do you want to say anything about it before we?
I'm very excited.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the Chelmsford School Committee appoint Dr. Lang, our superintendent of schools, as a representative to the Valley Collaborative Board of Directors
Mhm.
for the term July 15th, 2015 to June 30th, 2016.
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded for the appointment to the Valley Collaborative. Any discussion?
Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Abstentions? Unanimous. Okay. Old business, vote on school choice for the upcoming year.
Sure. This is the last item on the agenda tonight for me. School choice is a new, well, the concept I know, but it's a new practice for me. Lowell doesn't participate in school choice. We send kids out, but we don't take them in, so it's a little bit different dynamic. But in working with the folks here at the office, it appears earlier in the spring that a vote was taken to authorize 27 school choice slots into the district with a prescribed enrollment by grade and by school, which is in the left column of the chart. Obviously, you can't determine who's going to apply for school choice in different areas. So in the right column, you did end up receiving a total number of 27 kids that would like to choice into the district for next year. Some of the grade configurations are slightly different than what was approved. We have talked to the folks in the schools, and they do not foresee any issues with any enrollment. A couple are up, 1 or 2 per grade level, but it won't throw off the student enrollments in the schools. So we are comfortable authorizing those 27. But again, well, this is kind of a first for me, and the actual enrollment will differ slightly from the original board vote. I just wanted to bring it back for your attention and kind of get your blessing to approve the actual enrollments in the right-hand column for the 15-16 school year. More procedural than anything, but just to have it be an official vote.
Okay, so I have a question. Actually, I have a couple. So the only, so the difference that we had in terms of number of seats voted, we also had that June meeting where we authorized to have increased seating, but I don't remember the distribution. But I noticed at the high school, we have 8. Do we know, did anybody check to see when we had the 32 where we added the extra seats? Or do we know what the distribution is of the 8 versus the 5 that we were allowing?
I don't 100% know what you mean.
If we have 5 seats and we had, say, 2 in 9th, 2 in 10th, and 1 in 11th, now we have 8.
Right,
Where are they?
in 9th.
Ninth.
They're all in 9th.
Oh, yeah, on the left.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
It's still 10 total.
Originally, you were looking for 5 in the 9th
And
grade.
now we have 8?
But there ends up being 8.
Okay,
And in 10th, you were going to
Always
have
do that.
2, but
Screw that.
now you're down to 1. And you were going to have 3 juniors, but now you're down to 1. So you still have the 10 for
It's
the
just-
high
you
school
just
level.
distributed. Okay,
It's a different
gotcha.
grade distribution.
no problem.
The only other big number was at the McCarthy in the middle school. Originally, back in March, I believe they were anticipating a reduction in 5th grade teachers, so they weren't taking any 5th grade kids in. but where there wasn't that reduction, and they do have an interest in fifth grade, that they can serve and still not throw off their numbers, they're accepting 5 in.
Do we have anybody else pending that have made applications for school choice?
Not, to my knowledge, not actual applications. You receive calls all the time for people asking if you're still accepting them. But I believe the July 15th deadline is kind of past at this point. There are no applications to my knowledge. I don't know if you know
Well,
differently.
I have that one family who's a current student but moving out of district who would like to stay in the district as a school choice.
Right,
And I have not gotten back to that family because I was kind of waiting to see what would happen.
right. That one I do,
That
that's a
could be-
Are
different,
they included in these numbers?
No, they're not.
Where are their kids?
Grade 11.
It's good for us.
So should we increase that number to 2?
well, the only issue is, well, that issue did come up the other day, and I have received different letters from folks requesting to stay at different schools, or they're leaving the district, they're moving out of Chelmsford to another community, but would like to stay still in Chelmsford. I wanted a little more time to kind of research exactly, how that happens, what kind of policy exists. So that is something I was going to bring back at the August meeting, once I had a chance to really look at it further. I don't know all of the kind of the legal implications for it. One of the children, and I totally understand, was a senior in high school, but you actually had something written in the policy that you don't take, say, senior school choice students, because you wouldn't want to attract someone in just for their senior year of high school and have them participate somewhere else, but then be a Chelmsford High graduate. So again, being new to this, this only came up last Friday. I didn't have a time to really study it to make a good recommendation to you. So I'd like a chance to just kind of study that and bring it back in August.
Should we just delay this until then, so that we have final numbers?
Do you think it's a different situation? I mean, it's all into school choice. But do you think it's a different situation in terms of policy if we already have a current student that has moved out of the district, to allow them to go back under school choice that would not be included in this because we already have included them in the class sizes? Because we haven't been notified
Well,
when
it
we
sounds
did
like
this?
there's a conflict with policy, but that, you're gonna have a meeting on Thursday anyway, so if
Right, and we're
if
gonna
you have
address
to
part of
rewrite
it.
it, you could rewrite it. You hate to make ad hoc changes like that, but I'm sure you could come up with language that says if somebody's been there for 3 years, they could be permitted to have a 4th, but we wouldn't allow somebody to transfer in as a
That's
senior.
correct.
See, the
No,
issue for me, again, the school choice is new, but technically to be a school choice student, you have to be residing outside of the district from the start. So you're not like, these people are actually living in Chelmsford residents right now. They're not in another district. So they're technically not school choicing in from somewhere else. They're moving outside of the district, but just trying to stay in Chelmsford. And there are different rules with school choice that I just don't know how this is all going to pan out. I can speak from my experience, and again, we're not school choice, but if a student moves out of Lowell, regardless of the circumstance, they have to withdraw from the Lowell Public Schools. They're not allowed to stay. And, for us, it's kind of an equity thing, that you don't want to pick and choose, which
Right.
kids, for whatever reason, you're going to allow to stay. It could be the best student in the world. It could be a student you're having some difficulty with. And you don't want to ever have it just be a situation of the individual child. So we have just always taken the hard line that if you do not reside in the district, you may not stay in our district to be educated. If there is some flexibility or things have happened here in the past, that's what I want to kind of look at and just make sure, at least from my beginning in the get-go, that I'm consistent now and I'll be consistent 5 years later. I just don't want to have the, kind of the case-by-case
Right.
things creeping up. And I just didn't have the chance to really research this Friday when it came in. These are the kids, these 27 are the legitimate school choice kids that have actually gone through the process. You certified 27 open slots. They filled out an application by the deadline. There was a lottery. They were assigned to the schools. Technically, your school choice window is closed at this point. So these kids did comply, and I'd almost like some finality to their acceptance and enrollment for the fall. And these other students, just to kind of have a couple of weeks to figure out what to do with.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, the policy would be, I think, if they left, they could tuition back in.
How would you do that?
Well, they'd have to pay the cost of their education
Because they're not a taxpayer anymore.
because they're not a taxpayer anymore.
And we do have a policy on that.
You allow that?
Not under the certain circumstances. We do have school tuition. It's in one of the 4,000 policies.
See,
Yeah, I
my
think
experience
that
with-
needs, that's gonna be a whole nother can of worms. So, right, maybe we should just deal with these school choice kids now.
That would be my suggestion, is do this, and then we'll take up the policy issue on Thursday morning.
Talk about Thursday morning.
Yeah.
Because I know what the policy numbers are, so if I
Right.
have a chance. I sent you the other ones.
did, yeah.
Because then, not to cloud the issue, there is another policy, that's 6105.01, that talks about the authority being given to the superintendent, that if you stay in Chelmsford but move around in Chelmsford, it's at the discretion of the superintendent if you can stay in the school that you started with, if you
I-
are bused.
I'm pretty sure that got superseded when we closed, that was deprecated or
It's
something.
still there. It's
when we-
online.
I don't think that's right. We-
That's why I
Once
asked you
once
some
the Westlands
questions.
closed, we weren't letting kids pick and choose their schools.
No, they weren't. This is not picking and choosing. If you have somebody at Byam, a family at Byam, and their child moves into the Harrington district, but the parent says, I'm going to drive my child, I would like them to stay in Byam, it is a policy, and it has been being done.
That's
You might-
superintendent
Okay,
discretion.
That's
we need to
correct.
get back to the
Another
Make a
issue.
motion.
issue at hand.
I make a motion to accept and approve the final acceptance placement of 27 students registered for FY 15-16 school year at the July 14th meeting today.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Unanimous. Okay. Liaison reports. Anybody have anything?
I just have one thing.
Okay.
Besides the fact we have a policy subcommittee meeting on Thursday. MASC, I have a meeting tomorrow night. We're going to be reviewing the resolutions for the fall. When they are approved, I'll bring them to you to see whether or not any of them we want to sponsor, along with other communities, provided that I have the time to do so. We did that last year. We went in with a number of other communities on one of the resolutions for the conference. And if you want to go to the conference, you register as soon as possible.
Okay. Mr. Rigney, do you want to comment about the maintenance meeting and whether somebody else would want to go?
Yeah, it's not going to be, it was tentatively scheduled for tomorrow. It will
Right.
not be tomorrow. It looks like people are available next Wednesday. Dr. Lang is not, but Ms. Cresta is. My preference would be to have a couple of us there. I can be there.
Yeah, I'll be away.
The chair will be away
What day?
next Wednesday.
Wednesday.
What's the date?
It's early, right? 7:30?
No,
You change
I
it?
think it was 8:45, I think, was
Okay.
what we talked
AM?
about. I'll send out,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll send
I'd
out
like
an
to meet
email.
you early.
So I'll just put, you know what, I'll
Post it, we
post
can
it
all
and
show
people
up.
can show up.
I just have one thing to go to that meeting. I went over to the high school the other day, and I haven't been back, but the place looked awful. Hadn't been mowed for weeks, apparently. And so, I'm sure there's a reason, but if you could just see what the problem was, we've got to maintain the appearance of the schools. It really looks like it was abandoned. It was that bad. So, just this is a perpetual issue. It was brought up earlier in this last year about Westlands, I think.
Yep.
And so it's not just, some schools are better than others, obviously. But, it is so important, that we look like we're in business and taking care of things. Anything else under liaison? All right. Actions from prior meetings. Oh, I didn't bring that list. Anybody remember anything off that list. There were 2 or 3 things.
Off the top of my head, we're still looking for job descriptions.
Yeah. That's a major.
It's been brought to my attention that there was a new direction taken in the personnel department to keep our job descriptions vague.
Well,
I don't know why.
they're maximally vague right now since we don't have any.
Exactly.
I mean, look, it's the first rule of quality stuff, right? You have to document what you're doing first. Then you can worry about where you want to get to. But right now, we don't know where we are. So, I mean, this group has talked about integrating training into job descriptions, and how do we know that our people are prepared for, whatever eventuality may confront them. And some part of that mechanism is having good job descriptions. Until we know what the current job descriptions are, we don't know if any changes need to be made or if they're satisfactory.
I was speaking, I'm sorry, to the job posting descriptions, which may be why this resulted the way it resulted in the library position, because he didn't necessarily put certified librarian.
Well, I will say
Vague.
that we should be able to see those postings, right? You go on School Spring, just pull up a Chelmsford search, and you should be able to see whatever's there. But it would be helpful if maybe we could get a monthly list. As you say, when you hire people, you send out a little brief. If we could get a monthly review of what open positions are listed on
Sure.
School Spring
What
or
was
something
the
like
action
that.
item about the job descriptions?
We would like to see job descriptions
We're not
for
really
the various
sure.
roles in the district.
One of the problems we were having is that the former business manager seemed to be responsible for everything. She was responsible for the cleanliness of our buildings. She was responsible for everything. So we asked that those jobs, your job would be described for what your responsibilities are and match it to what you do.
Right. The further suggestion was made that if somebody came in and they didn't have the full set of qualifications, that then by having a written job description, we'd know basically what they needed to be trained in. If somebody came in and didn't have a munis background, and the job description said you're supposed to have it, it doesn't mean you can't, as you say, there are things that are required and things that are preferred.
Right.
But unless you know how they're matching up with what's preferred and what's required, I think there was a perception that people weren't progressing, right? They might have come in with some weaknesses, and that's fine. That's what growth is, but that we weren't giving them the structure for that growth.
Okay.
I think another problem is in programs where there is a smaller investment. Just pick something homeless. You pick somebody from the administration to take care of those things, so it gets tagged on to their whether it's the money person or whoever it happens to be.
The athletic director.
Yeah, and from administration to administration, it changes, except that we might not even know. So I think that's an area, there are a number of things that are similar to that, and I can't think of them right off the top of my head, but I have a feeling that that's one of the problems also. Do we need a subcommittee to work with Ken?
You mean to facilitate it so it actually happens?
Yeah.
No, let's just, again, people may have questions once we see them. And
Okay.
again, this is a place where we have to be a little careful about not overstepping our boundaries.
Exactly.
But we can all have discussions, but we can't really have them until we
So
see
just
the
ask them
descriptions.
to
If we can
see what we have.
Right, we just want to know what we've got. After that, we'll worry about what comes next.
Yeah, I mean, on that, I mean, one of the things that'll be interesting to me as I do my kind of entry plan for the district is just to take a look at the different processes and procedures you have in place. And like hiring is obviously of interest to me. So, what type of a protocol do you have in place when someone applies? What type of interviewing committees do you use? Is it a standard composition from, say, one school to the next, or department to department? When you look at positions, are there any kind of position controls in place to, actually kind of tie out, say, a job description to a particular position on FTE? Where's that tied to the budget and the whole org chart? If you give me a little time to kind of look at those things, those are going to kind of surface in some of my discussions. But if it's an area that you want to flag for review, I'm happy to do that and, kind of fill you in at the end of the summer, early September with what I found at that point. And if it maybe then I could say to you, I do think this is a good issue for a subcommittee. We should put one together. And but let's have a start and an end date so that maybe this is a project we're going to tackle this fall, and we really want to kind of get done by Christmas. But if you give me a month or so to kind of figure that out, I'll come back to you with the report. All right.
Another thing that the committee needs to be aware of is that we need to, early in the fall, establish our goals for this upcoming year.
Probably
Because
get
the
done in August.
superintendent's goals, which you just mentioned, are to a certain extent built on our goals. So that's something that, while we have a couple of weeks that you don't have anything else to do, you can think about major things that we'd like to accomplish as a committee this year. Anything else under liaison reports? Any new items or other business? All right. Are there any press questions?
I'm good.
Could I have your name, please, for the record?
Sure thing. It's Brendan Lewis, Lowell's son.
Okay, Brendan Lewis, Lowell's son. Our secretary isn't here. It's not that it's not being done, but she does it off of the TV, so thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.
8:35.